Have you ever been stuck on a business problem or something along your path and it just feels like you're hitting a brick wall? No matter what you do, no matter what, it just feels like there's so many things standing in your way. It's like you're trying to take down all these bricks and it is just feeling impossible. That is the premise of what we're going to be talking about today. Whatever the case may be, whether it is maybe figuring out what your path forward is, if you're looking to make a career transition, or if it's some kind of problem within your business that you're going, I have been trying to figure this out endlessly, and I just feel like no matter what I do, I am hitting a wall, then this episode is for you. Today, we're going to be talking about what I have just termed, literally right before this, the blank slate method. And the blank slate method is being a little radical, to be honest. It is radically tearing down everything, starting from scratch, in order for you to move forward. And I recently found that this sometimes is the only way to actually get past those brick walls where you're going, I know there's a solution, but I can't seem to figure it out. That is what this is for. And I've been using it recently in many different ways. I used it literally to create this podcast studio. I used it in order to redevelop a social media plan. I've used it in so many aspects, and it is so powerful. And that is what we are going to be discussing today, is how I'm going to take you through the blank slate method. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Jessica Huang, and this is Permission to Flow podcast. Welcome. If you are a wellness business owner or someone moving into that space and you have been feeling stuck and not sure how to move forward, and it just feels like there's like a stormy cloud hanging over your head, then this episode is without a doubt for you. And just to give you a little background, I honestly I've been on a little bit of a pause in terms of the podcast. And it's because I've kind of been going through this process with I feel like almost every aspect of my life. I mentioned the two big ones, but this podcast is getting a little bit of a rehaul once again with the blank slate method. And I had to take a little bit of a breather. And it is when we take those steps back, actually, and quiet down and let ourselves reassess things that I think a lot of magic can happen. And in light of the fact that we're moving into a new year right now, I think this episode is going to be the first episode of the new year. I'm recording this right before the new year, and I just needed it to get out there. Like, it just felt like someone out there is going to benefit from hearing about this method that I've been playing around with. And I hope that that's you. I hope you are listening to this and able to go, oh, yes, let me apply this to the thing I'm stuck on, and be able to move into this new year with fresh energy. And that is what, in essence, this is all about, is giving ourselves the ability to clear away anything that's been holding us back and move in with a fresh start, a blank slate, whatever word you want to use for it, and be able to move forward on something that you've been stuck on. So I hope this episode is helpful to you, and let's dive right in. So I hope this episode is helpful for you. The way that we're going to talk about it is kind of through three key steps. We are going to talk about creating that blank slate, focusing on your end goal, and then adding in piece by piece all of the elements. Okay, now let's dive right in. So first, I want to talk about creating this blank slate. So why is this important? Here's the thing. We get so caught up and bogged down in all of these shoulds and have tos and supposed tos that get in the way of us being able to move forward. That's generally what makes us have that feeling of stuckness, right? Is this feeling that, oh, well, it needs to go a certain way, it needs to look a certain way. And all of those things are often what is holding us back and keeping us from actually finding the solution. We are looking at the problem and going, oh, well, it can't be done because of this, that, and the other thing. That is why creating this blank slate is so powerful, because we're taking everything out. We are cleaning house. And I want you to remember, like, this might feel a little bit jarring. You know, I said at the very beginning, I'm like, it's a little radical to do this, because usually we're trying to come up with solutions in tiny ways. And generally, that is something I talk about a lot, right? These little shifts, these, what is the word I usually use? Little tweaks is what I talk about a lot. Well, guess what? Sometimes little tweaks are just not going to cut it, and we have to go a little radical. And I don't know why, but especially at the end of the year, I love the energy of the end of the year. I'm going to nerd out for a second. I'm like kind of obsessed with like taking stock and then like moving forward. So I think this is actually a perfect time, if you happen to be listening to this at year end, or at the beginning of the year rather, to use the blank slate method. And even if you're listening to this at another time, you can use it literally anytime. I was doing this back in September when I was doing the apartment. Basically, I want you to start by cleaning out this, like cleaning house, removing everything. You can do this. I like to do this kind of visually. I'm a visual thinker. So for me, it was, one example is that when I was doing the apartment, I was literally visualizing the apartment empty. I could have drawn it. I could have drawn like, here's my apartment with nothing in it, or whatever you want to do. But I was visualizing this completely empty. Another example is when I was developing a new social strategy. I drew on my computer, I made like a table with like a blank slate table with days of the week. So I had nothing in there, and I was like, all right, let me start from scratch. When you're doing this, I want you to really think of this as starting over. Like if you are starting over, everything that you've been doing from today is day one. This is where you are. Nothing is set in stone. Everything is on the table, and you are starting over. So that's step one. Step two is really thinking about like, what is it that you want as your end goal? If you could kind of pinpoint, like, what is the main thing that you do want in there? What is something, or like you can play around with different questions here, but I want you to imagine, like, what is it that you have not been letting yourself have that you would love to have in there? What is something that, like, if you were like, oh, I see these people like do this thing, but I've never been able to figure out how I can do that. I want you to start with that. I want you to start with the thing that you think has been impossible. And I want you to push yourself on this question. I really want you to extend yourself beyond what has been in the realm of reality for you. No, we're starting fresh. What is it that you have been afraid to adopt? What is it that you have been dreaming of? Like, what is that thing that you're going, God, I wish I could have that? That is what I want you to start with. I want you to start with that idea. Like, to give you some examples, when I was thinking about this studio space, I was like, I want a space where I can have a neon sign on the wall. I don't know why, but that was something that I thought would just be so cool. And I started with that imagery. I really want a neon sign on the wall, and I want a wall that I could work with and play around with and be able to do whatever. I didn't know what it would look like, but I just knew I wanted something where I could like hang a sign on the wall and have it and work from there. With my social media strategy, I was like, I want to be able to do a series and have things feel like they're regular And so it gives me a structure that I can then flow within, but I want to be like, oh, this day looks like this and this day looks like that. Like that, I don't know why, but that was the thing that I really wanted for it. So start there. Start with the thing that you're like, I don't know how to make this work, but I really want X. That is step 2. Of course, I don't want you to lose sight of all the other things that are going on, but we are going to take them piece by piece by piece. I want you to, and it's okay to start with the things that you do already have. For instance, I was starting with, can I work with the furniture that I have now? But I would only start with one piece of furniture. Can I work with the couch that I have? Okay, maybe. Well, actually, no. Let me take a even further step back. What wall am I even trying to work with if I want to make this thing happen with a neon sign on it? Okay, I think it needs to be this wall. Well, that seems crazy because I had my TV stand here. And it seemed like that was the only place it could go in my mind. But no, I'm going to clear everything away and go, I want to start with this being the wall that is the backdrop. Okay. And then you layer in from there. So it is starting with like that end goal and working from that end goal and adding in elements from there. Okay. I've created the idea that it needs to be this wall. Next, can I utilize the furniture that I currently have? Like, is it okay? Like, can I use the couch I have? Okay, well, then the couch needs to go over here. All right, what do I do with my TV stand? I don't know, and I started playing with each piece. There was one example in my mind where I was like, oh, maybe I get rid of my TV stand and I wall mount it, but then I need a wall mount that looks like this. I just started to experiment. And that is the point of this, is like you're only adding in like bit by bit, and you're allowing yourself to experiment and move outside of what you thought it needed to look like. And it's really a little bit of like challenging each of those things. Like, why do I think that my TV stand has to go here against the wall? Well, I thought I needed to go here because I needed to have all the wires here, and I was like, oh, well, if I move it in, even though it's a little funny having it in the middle of the room and unorthodox, well, but the cords can go like this and it'll be fine. And this goes here, and so it's a lot around playing around with these things and letting everything be a moving piece. For instance, with social, I was like, okay, I still like having my podcast out on Wednesdays. That I want to keep there and have the social content for that still stay on Wednesdays. But all the other days of the week are on the table. Let me play around. Let me put this here. What if I want to really talk about what would be an example? What if I want to talk about experimenting? Where would I want to put that? Let me put it here. Play around with that. Oh, wait. Actually, I really want to go through things in this way. Let me move it around. So everything is like a moving piece. Like, imagine it's almost like, when people do seating charts and they have everything on a little sticker. I want you to imagine that everything is like a little sticker and you're able to move them around. Nothing is staying in place. Nothing is glued down yet because they're all on the table. So, with this physical space, it's like I was having fun with this visually, but I was literally like moving all of these pieces around. Like in my head, I was going, oh, if this went here and that went there, like what would that look like? And I was imagining what that could be like. But in any case, whatever it is that you're doing, it's like, yeah, you could literally do it with paper. You can draw it out and go, okay, here are all the elements that I'm thinking about right now, and take them and move them around and go, okay, what if I put this here and that there and whatever? But whatever it is, I want you to imagine like all the pieces are on the table and nothing is stuck where it is, and play around with them piece by piece. Bring one element in, go, okay, do I like that there? And temporarily leave it there, bring in another piece, and then go, oh, wait, no, actually, this should go here. And let it be freeing. That is really it. Like, it's not that complicated. Yeah. Embrace playfulness and flexibility is what I wrote down here. That is the thing. Be flexible. Nothing is tied down. And then even as you start to bring it into fruition, as I started to actually make this studio happen, it's like, okay, you're allowed to play with it even still from there. Like nothing is still set in stone. And that's why this is so powerful, is that we don't have to, we're not tied down to anything. So I want you to think about, what is something that you've been stuck on that has felt like I can't move on and I don't know the path forward, and apply these 3 steps. It's really simple. Clear the slate, figure out like what is the key thing that you want to bring in that you have not been allowing yourself to bring in, and start playing. Play with each piece, bring them in slowly and experiment. Move them around. Do something that you think like you're like, oh, that seems crazy. Try it in your imaginary land of your creation. Try it. Try the crazy thing. I think that was what was holding me back from this, right? Is from this studio space. Was I thought it would be crazy to put my TV in the middle of the room. Well, guess what? I did it, and it's worked great for me, to be honest. I love it. It might be weird to other people, but they're not me. And I think that's the thing, is sometimes we're going to surprise ourselves with the things that actually work. And sometimes we're going to surprise ourselves with like what works for us. And, I think that is kind of the through line of so much of what I talk about, is this idea of you get to decide what works for you. And it doesn't matter what everyone else thinks. It doesn't matter what you've been told it is how it's supposed to go or what it's supposed to look like. The only thing that matters is whether or not it really works for you. And if you've been ruminating on this idea for a really long time, that means that what's been happening is not working for you. So maybe it is time to give yourself a blank slate, start fresh, and allow yourself to move past the things that you've been telling yourself that you're not allowed to do, and do it anyway. I want to just remind you that there is a solution. There is a path forward. And if you're listening to this and you're still going, oh, I really could love some support on this, then I actually am doing something new. I'm thinking, I just came up with this, but welcome to Blank Slate Method. I'm going to offer for 5 people to do 1-day sessions with me, where we are going to step through the blank slate in the method together and tackle whatever it is that you are stuck on. So if you've been listening to this and you want guidance to go through it, then you can either comment on this video or on this audio, or you can reach out to me on Instagram and let's set up a time. We can do a 1-day intensive to take you through the blank slate method and finally get you past this dark, stormy cloud that's been hanging over your head. Because I want you to be starting off 2025 with the freedom and the space and the joyousness of knowing like, okay, I finally got past that thing. Let's move forward. It's your time now. So I would love to work with you. Message me if this is calling to you, and let's get started in applying the blank slate method to whatever has been holding you back, because you deserve a fresh start too. All right. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Permission to Flow. Happy New Year, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Permission to Flow. If you enjoyed this episode, then hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And if you want to learn more about working with me, then go to my website, jessicahuangcoaching.com. Link is below. And remember, the world needs what you will create.